The human boy sneezed fire at school, and the dragons came to claim him. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Tyler Grant sat in the back row of Mrs. Harrington's 6th grade science class, fighting the tickle in his nose. The classroom was drafty, dust motes dancing in the weak February sunlight that filtered through the windows. Outside, snow blanketed the playground of Lincoln Middle School, but inside, the ancient radiator clanked and wheezed, making the room uncomfortably warm. And so, class, the periodic table is organized by. Mrs. Harrington droned on, her voice fading into background noise as Tyler's nose began to itch more intensely. He reached for a tissue, but his desk was empty. The tickle grew stronger. His eyes watered. Tyler pinched his nose, desperately trying to hold it in, but it was too late. "Oh, achoo!" The sneeze exploded from him with unexpected force. But instead of the normal spray, a jet of orange flame shot from his nose and mouth, arcing 3 feet across the classroom before dissipating. The flame lasted less than a second, but in that instant, everything changed. The classroom fell silent. 27 pairs of eyes stared at him in shock. Mrs. Harrington's chalk had frozen mid-equation. A girl in the front row whimpered. Tyler blinked, his eyes watering. Had he just breathed fire? That was impossible. Humans didn't breathe fire. His cheeks burned with embarrassment, and he wanted nothing more than to sink through his chair and disappear. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, his voice small in the silence. "I didn't mean to." The fire alarm shrieked to life, cutting him off. Mrs. Harrington snapped out of her stupor. "Everyone out," she shouted, her teacher training kicking in. Fire drill procedures. Now, the class scrambled to their feet, chairs scraping against linoleum as they formed a hasty line at the door. Several students gave Tyler a wide berth, eyeing him as if he might explode. "Tyler," Mrs. Harrington said, her voice tight with tension. "Come with me, please." He trudged to the front of the room, keeping his eyes fixed on the scuffed toes of his sneakers. What was happening to him? Was he sick? Was he dying? People didn't just breathe fire. It defied everything he'd ever learned about human biology. "Principal's office," Mrs. Harrington murmured, guiding him with a hand that hovered near, but didn't quite touch, his shoulder. As they walked down the hall, Tyler noticed something strange. The fire alarms were blaring, but there were no other classes evacuating. No other teachers poking their heads out to investigate. Just him and Mrs. Harrington, walking down an eerily empty corridor. "Mrs. Harrington?" Tyler asked, his voice cracking. "Why isn't anyone else?" "Shoo!" She cut him off, her pace quickening. "Not now, Tyler." They rounded a corner, but instead of heading toward the principal's office, Mrs. Harrington steered him toward the service entrance at the back of the school. Tyler's heart began to pound. This wasn't right. They should be going to the nurse's office or calling his parents, not sneaking out the back door. "Where are we going?" he asked, digging in his heels. Mrs. Harrington turned to him, her normally placid face tight with urgency. "Tyler," she said, "I need you to trust me right now. We don't have much time." "Time for what?" Fear crawled up his spine. "I want to call my mom." "Your mother," Mrs. Harrington said, her voice softening slightly, "would want you to be safe. And right now, the safest place for you is not here." Before Tyler could respond, the lights in the hallway flickered. Once, twice, then extinguished completely, plunging them into momentary darkness before emergency lights clicked on, bathing the corridor in an eerie red glow. Mrs. Harrington cursed under her breath, a sound so unexpected from his proper science teacher that it shocked Tyler almost as much as his fire-breathing sneeze. "They're here already," she muttered. "Come on." She grabbed his wrist and broke into a run, pulling him along. Tyler had no choice but to follow, his mind racing with questions. Who was here? What did they want? And how did Mrs. Harrington know about any of this? They burst through the service entrance into the bitter cold. Snow crunched beneath their shoes as they sprinted across the empty staff parking lot. Tyler wasn't wearing a coat, and the freezing air bit into his skin, but fear and adrenaline kept him warm as he struggled to keep up with his teacher's surprisingly fast pace. Mrs. Harrington led him to an ancient Volvo station wagon, its blue paint faded and rust creeping along the wheel wells. She fumbled with her keys, hands shaking. "Get in," she ordered, unlocking the doors. Tyler hesitated. Everything he'd ever been taught about stranger danger and not getting into cars with adults flashed through his mind. But was Mrs. Harrington really a stranger? She'd been his science teacher for 6 months. A deep rumble shook the ground beneath them, like distant thunder. Except the winter sky above was clear and blue, without a cloud in sight. "Now, Tyler!" Mrs. Harrington shouted. He dove into the passenger seat. Mrs. Harrington started the car with a roar of the engine, threw it into reverse, and peeled out of the parking lot, tires spinning on the ice before finding purchase. As they fishtailed onto the main road, Tyler looked back at the school. His heart nearly stopped. Circling above Lincoln Middle School were 3 massive, winged shapes, their scaled bodies gleaming like jewels in the winter sun. Dragons. Actual dragons, with wingspans wider than school buses, talons that could crush cars, and long, sinuous necks. "Mrs. Harrington," Tyler whispered, his voice tight with terror. "There are dragons." "Dragons? I know," she replied grimly, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror. "And they've come for you." The old Volvo's engine protested as Mrs. Harrington pushed it well beyond the speed limit, weaving through the light mid-morning traffic of their small town. Tyler clutched the door handle, his knuckles white, torn between watching the road ahead and craning his neck to keep the dragons in sight. "This can't be happening," he muttered. "Dragons aren't real." "Evidently they are," Mrs. Harrington replied dryly, taking a sharp turn that sent them skidding. "Just like human boys who breathe fire, apparently." Tyler touched his throat self-consciously. "I didn't mean to. I just sneezed." Mrs. Harrington's expression softened slightly. "I know you didn't, Tyler. This isn't your fault." "Then whose fault is it? And how do you know about the dragons? Where are we going? Should we call the police? Or the army? Or—" "One question at a time," she interrupted, checking her mirrors again. "We're going somewhere safe. The dragons won't be able to track you there, at least not immediately." "Track me? Why would they want to track me?" Mrs. Harrington sighed, a sound that seemed to contain years of weariness. "Because you're like them. Or part of them. Or connected to them somehow. I don't know the exact details, Tyler. I'm just a watcher." "A what?" "A watcher. We're— well, I suppose you could call us an organization. We keep an eye out for signs, for children like you who show certain abilities." Tyler's mind reeled. "There are other kids who breathe fire? Not specifically fire, no? But there are children who display unusual abilities, gifts that mark them as something more than ordinary. We watch, we wait, and when they manifest, we protect them." "Protect them from what? From those who would use them, or harm them, or, in your case," she nodded toward the rearview mirror, "claim them." Tyler twisted in his seat. Through the back window, he could see the dragons still circling the school, their massive wings beating the air. But now, one of them had broken away from the group and was flying in their direction, its long body undulating like a ribbon in the wind. "They're following us," he cried. Mrs. Harrington pressed the accelerator harder. The Volvo shuddered but picked up speed. "We need to reach the safe house before they catch up. There's a barrier there, a protection." They left the town behind, speeding down country roads lined with bare trees and snow-covered fields. The dragon grew larger in the rear window, its iridescent scales shimmering green and gold in the sunlight. "It's getting closer," Tyler warned, his heart hammering against his ribs. "I know a shortcut," Mrs. Harrington said, spinning the wheel suddenly. The car lurched onto a narrow dirt road, barely visible beneath the snow. Tree branches scraped against the windows as they bounced and jolted along the rough track. Tyler gripped the dashboard, his teeth rattling with every bump. "Almost there," Mrs. Harrington assured him. "Just a little." A deafening roar cut her off as the dragon swooped low overhead, so close that its shadow darkened the car interior. The pressure wave of its passing rocked the vehicle. Mrs. Harrington swore again and swerved, narrowly avoiding a tree. "Hold on." The Volvo burst from the tree line into a small clearing. In the center stood a modest cabin, smoke curling from its chimney. It looked utterly ordinary, the kind of weekend getaway place that dotted the countryside around their town. Mrs. Harrington skidded to a stop in front of the cabin. "Run inside," she ordered. Now, Tyler didn't need to be told twice. He flung open the car door and sprinted for the cabin, snow soaking through his sneakers. Behind him, he heard the dragon roar again, closer this time. He risked a glance over his shoulder and immediately wished he hadn't. The dragon was descending, its massive body blotting out the sky. It was even larger up close, at least 60 feet from nose to tail, with scales like polished emeralds and gold. Its eyes, fixed directly on Tyler, glowed with an inner fire that matched the flames he'd sneezed out earlier. Mrs. Harrington was right behind him, shouting something he couldn't hear over the thunder of his own heartbeat and the whoosh of the dragon's wings. They reached the cabin door. Mrs. Harrington fumbled with another key, cursing the cold and her shaking hands. The dragon landed with surprising grace for something so enormous, the ground trembling beneath its weight. It folded its wings against its body and regarded them with those burning eyes, head tilted curiously to one side. It made no move to attack, which somehow made it even more terrifying. The door finally swung open. Inside, Mrs. Harrington hissed, shoving Tyler through. They tumbled into the cabin, and Mrs. Harrington slammed the door behind them, throwing the deadbolt with a decisive click. For a moment, they stood in the dim interior, panting, listening to their own ragged breathing and the crackle of a fire in a stone hearth. "Will that keep it out?" Tyler whispered, eyeing the ordinary wooden door that seemed laughably inadequate against a creature that could probably reduce the entire cabin to splinters with one swipe of its tail. "The door?" "No," said a deep voice from the shadows. "But the barriers will." Tyler jumped, spinning toward the sound. A tall figure rose from an armchair by the fire and stepped into the light. It was a man, or at least something shaped like one. He was imposingly tall, with broad shoulders and silver hair tied back in a neat ponytail. His face was handsome in a severe way, with high cheekbones and a strong jaw. But his eyes were exactly like the dragon's, glowing with inner fire. "Kazon," Mrs. Harrington said, inclining her head slightly. "Thank you for opening the sanctuary." "Elizabeth," the man acknowledged with a nod. "It's been some time. Not long enough, if dragons are back in our skies." She gestured to Tyler. "This is the boy." The man, Kazon, turned his burning gaze on Tyler, who fought the urge to shrink back. There was something ancient and powerful in that stare, something that made Tyler feel like a specimen under a microscope. "So," Kazon said, his voice like gravel, "you're the one who called them." "I didn't call anyone," Tyler protested. "I just sneezed. A sneeze of fire, I presume," Kazon said dryly. The first manifestation is often triggered by strong emotion or involuntary reflex. A sneeze is actually quite common. "Common?" Tyler gaped. "There's nothing common about breathing fire." "Perhaps not among humans," Kazon conceded. "But you're not entirely human, are you, Tyler Grant?" The words hit Tyler like a physical blow. Not entirely human? What was that supposed to mean? Before he could ask, the cabin shuddered as something massive struck it from outside. Dust rained from the rafters. The dishes in a nearby cabinet rattled. "They're testing the barriers," Kazon said calmly, as if discussing the weather. "They won't breach them, but they won't give up either. Not now that they've found one of their own." "I'm not one of them," Tyler protested. "I'm human. My parents are human. My whole family is human." Kazon and Mrs. Harrington exchanged a look that made Tyler's stomach drop. "Tyler," Mrs. Harrington said gently, "there's something you need to know about your birth." "What about it?" he asked, though a part of him already knew, a truth that was surfacing from deep in his mind, like a memory he'd never known he had. "You were adopted," Kazon stated bluntly. "Your birth parents weren't from this world." Another impact rocked the cabin, harder this time. A window cracked, a spiderweb of fractures spreading across the glass. "The barriers are weakening," Kazon noted with a frown. "They're stronger than I anticipated." "What do they want?" Tyler asked, his voice small. "You," Kazon replied simply. You're the first dragonborn to appear on Earth in over 5 centuries. To them, you're a miracle, a lost child returning to the fold. But I don't want to go with them. I want to go home. I want my parents, my real parents. Your adoptive parents are in danger as long as you're with them, Mrs. Harrington said. The dragons will tear apart anyone and anything that stands between them and you. Tyler felt tears stinging his eyes. This morning, he'd been a normal kid, worried about normal things like math homework and whether Liam Carter would pick him for basketball at recess. Now he was apparently half dragon, being hunted by full dragons, and told he couldn't even go home to his family. This isn't fair, he whispered. Very little about this situation is fair, Kazan agreed, surprisingly gentle. But it is real, and we must deal with it. A third impact, so violent that a beam cracked overhead. Kazan looked up with genuine concern. The sanctuary won't hold much longer, he said. We need to move to the inner chamber. He strode to a bookshelf against the far wall and pulled a specific volume halfway out. With a click and a groan, the entire shelf swung outward, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Quickly, Kazan urged, gesturing them forward. Mrs. Harrington went first, disappearing into the gloom. Tyler hesitated, looking back at the door, thinking of the world he'd known just hours ago, a world that now seemed as distant and unreachable as the moon. Tyler, Kazan said, his fiery eyes softening slightly. I know this is overwhelming, but right now, you need to trust us. Your life depends on it. Another crash, and this time, the cabin wall splintered, wooden planks giving way. Through the jagged hole, Tyler glimpsed scales and talons and burning eyes. He ran for the hidden staircase, Kazan right behind him. The bookshelf swung shut just as the dragon forced its enormous head through the breach in the cabin wall, its roar of frustration shaking the very foundation beneath their feet. The stairs led them deep underground, the air growing cooler and damper with each step. Battery-powered lanterns cast long shadows on rough stone walls that glistened with moisture. The dragon's roars and the sounds of destruction faded behind them, replaced by the echo of their footsteps and the drip of water from unseen sources. What is this place? Tyler asked, his voice hushed. A sanctuary, Kazan replied from behind him. One of many scattered across the world, hidden from both human and dragon eyes. Places of refuge for those caught between worlds. They reached the bottom of the stairs and emerged into a large chamber carved from solid rock. Unlike the rustic cabin above, this space was a blend of ancient and modern, stone walls inlaid with glowing strips of light, comfortable furniture arranged around a central fire pit where flames danced without fuel, and walls lined with books and artifacts that looked older than time itself. Mrs. Harrington was already there, speaking in low, urgent tones to a woman Tyler hadn't seen before. The newcomer was tall and elegant, with copper-colored skin and close-cropped white hair that contrasted strikingly with her youthful face. Like Kazan, her eyes held an inner glow, though hers burned blue rather than gold. Tyler, Kazan said, this is Naira. She's like me. A guardian. A dragon. Tyler guessed, eyeing her warily. Naira smiled, revealing teeth that were just a little too sharp to be human. Half-dragon, she corrected. Like you. Though I've had considerably more time to get used to the idea. How much time? Tyler couldn't help asking. 347 years. Give or take a decade, Naira replied casually, as if discussing the weather. Tyler gaped at her. She didn't look older than 30. Dragon blood, she explained, seeing his expression. It slows the aging process considerably. You might live 500 or 600 years, if you're careful. The casual discussion of centuries made Tyler's head spin. He sank onto a nearby chair, suddenly exhausted. The events of the day crashed over him like a wave. The fiery sneeze, the dragons, the revelation about his birth, the chase, the sanctuary. It was too much. I just want to go home, he said, his voice cracking. Naira knelt before him, her blue eyes gentle. I understand, she said. But first, we need to deal with the dragons above. They won't leave without you, and if they can't have you, they might take their frustration out on the town. On your family. Fear jolted through Tyler. They wouldn't hurt my parents, would they? Dragons are possessive of their young, Kazan said grimly. And they view humans with contempt. They would think nothing of destroying a human dwelling to reclaim a dragonborn child. Then I have to go with them, Tyler said, standing up suddenly. If it keeps my family safe. No, Mrs. Harrington interrupted sharply. That's not an option. Why not? Tyler demanded. If it's me they want. Because they don't just want to reclaim you, Naira explained. They want to use you. Your appearance here, after so many centuries without a dragonborn on Earth, is significant to them. It means the barriers between worlds are weakening. They see it as an opportunity to return in force. Return, Tyler repeated. They were here before? Long ago, Kazan said, dragons ruled this world. Humans were little more than slaves or prey. But humans are resourceful and determined. They fought back, developed weapons and magics that could harm even dragons. Eventually, the dragons were driven back to their own realm, and barriers were erected to keep them there. Occasionally, Naira continued, a dragon would find a way through, usually by taking human form. Some even took human mates. She gave Tyler a significant look. That's where dragonborn like us come from. Half human, half dragon, belonging fully to neither world. Tyler's head was spinning with revelations. So one of my real parents was a dragon? In human form? Most likely, Kazan nodded. And they returned to their realm before you were born, leaving you here. Perhaps for your protection, perhaps for reasons of their own. Dragons are not known for their sentimentality. A rumble shook dust from the ceiling. The dragons above were still trying to break through. Will the sanctuary hold? Mrs. Harrington asked anxiously. For now, Naira assured her. But we need a more permanent solution. The dragons won't give up, and we can't keep Tyler down here forever. What are our options? Mrs. Harrington asked. We fight, Kazan said simply. We drive them back through the rift they came through and seal it behind them. With what army? Mrs. Harrington scoffed. There are 3 full-blooded dragons up there, and only 2 half-dragons here. 3. Tyler corrected quietly. They all turned to look at him. 3 half-dragons, he clarified, touching his throat where the fire had come from. I may not know how to use whatever this is, but I want to help. I want to protect my family, my town. Naira smiled, a fierce, approving expression. The dragon blood runs strong in you, young one. But Elizabeth is right. Even with you, we're outnumbered and outmatched in raw power. Then we use strategy instead of strength, Kazan said thoughtfully. Dragons are powerful, but they're also proud. Arrogant. They underestimate humans, and they'll certainly underestimate a young, untrained dragonborn. You want to use Tyler as bait? Mrs. Harrington asked, horrified. Not bait, Kazan corrected. A distraction. While the dragons focus on him, Naira and I can work to close the rift. And how exactly is Tyler supposed to distract 3 full-grown dragons without getting killed? Mrs. Harrington demanded. Kazan turned to Tyler, his golden eyes intense. By embracing what you are, Tyler Grant. By awakening the dragon within you. Awaken the dragon within me. Tyler repeated, his voice cracking. How am I supposed to do that? I don't know anything about being a dragon. Your body knows, Naira said, her tone gentler than Kazan's. The fire-breathing wasn't an accident or a fluke. It was your dragon nature emerging. The first manifestation often happens around your age, when human children begin to transition toward adulthood. But I can't control it, Tyler protested. It just happened when I sneezed. That's because you've been suppressing it all your life, unconsciously, Kazan explained. Living as a human, thinking you were human. Your dragon nature had to force its way out. Another rumble shook the sanctuary, small bits of stone falling from the ceiling. The dragons above were becoming more determined. We don't have time for a gradual awakening, Kazan said grimly. We need to accelerate the process. He strode to one of the ancient chests against the wall and withdrew a small object wrapped in faded silk. Carefully, he unwrapped it to reveal a crystal the size of a golf ball, its surface faceted and polished, glowing with an inner red light that pulsed like a heartbeat. A dragon heart, Naira breathed. looking at the crystal with a mixture of reverence and apprehension. Not a literal heart, Kazan explained, seeing Tyler's horrified expression. It's a crystal infused with the essence of dragon fire, created in the final days of the Dragon War. It was meant to be a weapon against the dragons, but it can also awaken dragon blood. Is it safe? Mrs. Harrington asked, eyeing the crystal suspiciously. Define safe, Kazan replied with a grim smile. It won't kill him, if that's what you mean, but it will force his transformation faster than would naturally occur. It will be uncomfortable. Painful, you mean, Naira corrected, shooting Kazan a disapproving look. Yes, Kazan admitted. Painful, but we don't have the luxury of time or gentleness. Those dragons will break through eventually, and when they do, they'll raze this town to the ground if they don't get what they want. Tyler stared at the pulsing crystal, fear and determination warring within him. He thought of his parents, his adoptive parents, he corrected himself mentally, and their modest home on Maple Street. He thought of his friends at school, of Mrs. Harrington's classroom with its ancient radiator, of the park where he rode his bike on summer evenings. All of it would be destroyed if the dragons broke through. Because of him. I'll do it, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. What do I need to do? Kazan held out the crystal. Hold it. Let it touch your skin. The rest will happen on its own. Tyler swallowed hard and reached for the crystal. His fingers closed around it, and for a second, nothing happened. The crystal was warm against his palm, pulsing gently, but otherwise seemed inert. Then pain lanced up his arm like lightning, white-hot and all-consuming. Tyler cried out, his knees buckling. The crystal seemed to melt into his skin, its red glow spreading up his arm in glowing lines like veins of fire. His entire body burned from the inside out, as if his blood had turned to molten metal. He was dimly aware of falling, of hands catching him, of voices calling his name. But they seemed distant, unimportant compared to the fire raging through him, remaking him cell by cell. Then, abruptly, the pain vanished. In its place came a rush of sensations so intense that Tyler gasped. He could smell everything, the dampness of the stone around them, the lingering scent of Mrs. Harrington's perfume, the ancient dust on the books lining the walls. He could hear the beating hearts of everyone in the room, the drip of water from a crack in the ceiling 50 feet away, the rumble of dragon wings against the earth far above them. And he could feel a presence within himself, ancient and powerful, stirring from a slumber as old as his own life. Tyler, Mrs. Harrington's voice, tight with concern. Are you all right? He opened his eyes and saw them all staring at him with expressions ranging from awe to alarm. He realized he was on his feet again, though he didn't remember standing. I'm fine, he said, but his voice was different, deeper, with a resonant quality that hadn't been there before. Better than fine. He looked down at his hands and saw that his skin now shimmered faintly, as if dusted with microscopic diamonds. When he moved, he caught flashes of gold and green, the colors shifting like oil on water. The crystal worked, Naira said, sounding impressed. His dragon aspects are manifesting physically already. Can you feel the fire, Tyler? Kazan asked, his golden eyes intent. Not just in your throat now, but throughout your body. Tyler nodded. He could feel it, a steady burn behind his sternum that spread outward through his limbs. Not painful anymore, but powerful, like a second heartbeat. Good, Kazan said. Now you need to learn to control it, to channel it. Dragon fire isn't just destruction, it's creation, transformation, protection. In the old days, Dragonborn were healers as well as warriors, using their fire to mend as well as to harm. How? Tyler asked. How do I control it? It responds to will and emotion, Naira explained. Anger fuels destruction, fear creates barriers, love heals, determination focuses. Think of it as an extension of yourself, a tool rather than a weapon. Tyler closed his eyes, concentrating on the fire within. He imagined it flowing through him, gathering in his palms. When he opened his eyes, his hands were wreathed in golden flames that danced and flickered without burning his skin. Wow, he breathed. staring at the fire with a mixture of fear and wonder. "Well done," Naira said warmly. "Now, let's see what else you can do before our friends upstairs break through." For the next hour, as the dragons above continued their assault on the sanctuary, Naira and Kazan taught Tyler to harness his newfound abilities. He learned to control the intensity of his fire, to shape it, to direct it with precision. He discovered that he could enhance his strength and speed by channeling the fire through his muscles, making him faster and stronger than any human could be. Most surprisingly, he found that he could sense the dragons above them, not just hear or smell them, but feel their presence, their emotions. Their frustration and rage beat against his consciousness like waves against a shore. "You're connected to them," Kazan explained when Tyler described the sensation. "Dragon recognizes dragon, even across species barriers. You can use this connection, turn it to your advantage." "They're angry," Tyler said, focusing on the sensations. "But also excited. They want something from me, not just to take me back." "Can you tell what?" Naira asked sharply. Tyler concentrated harder, pushing his awareness toward the dragons. Images flashed through his mind, a massive portal swirling with energy, legions of dragons pouring through, human cities burning. "They want to open a gate," he said, his eyes snapping open. "A big one, permanent. They need a dragonborn to do it, to anchor it somehow." Kazan and Naira exchanged alarmed glances. "The Eternal Gate," Kazan said grimly. "It's as we feared. They're not just trying to reclaim a lost child. They're planning an invasion." "All the more reason to stop them now," Naira declared, "before more come through." Another crash shook the sanctuary, more violent than before. Dust and small rocks rained from the ceiling. The dragons were breaking through. "It's time," Kazan said. "Are you ready, Tyler?" Was he ready? Ready to face 3 full-grown dragons with powers he'd only known about for an hour? Ready to fight creatures from another world to protect this one? Ready to possibly die? No, but it didn't matter. "I'm ready," he said. Kazan nodded approvingly. "The plan is simple. Tyler, you'll go up first, engage the dragons, keep their attention. They won't immediately attack you. They want you alive. Use that. Keep them talking, keep them interested. Meanwhile, Naira and I will locate the rift they came through and work to seal it." "What about me?" Mrs. Harrington asked. "You'll stay here, where it's safe," Kazan replied. Mrs. Harrington drew herself up, indignation flashing in her eyes. "I've been a watcher for 20 years. I'm not hiding in a hole while a child I'm responsible for faces dragons." "She's right," Tyler said. "Mrs. Harrington should come. She might not have dragon powers, but she's smart and brave." Kazan looked like he wanted to argue, but another violent tremor decided the matter. The ceiling was starting to crack in earnest now. "Fine," he conceded, "but stay back from the fighting. Your primary concern is getting Tyler away if things go badly." They ascended the stairs quickly, emerging into what remained of the cabin. It was hardly recognizable. The roof was gone entirely, walls reduced to splintered remnants, furniture crushed and scattered. Snow drifted in through the gaping holes, melting where it touched the heated ground. And waiting outside, arranged in a semicircle like enormous sentinels, were the dragons. Up close, they were even more magnificent and terrifying than they'd appeared from a distance. The largest was the color of emeralds and gold, its scales gleaming in the winter sunlight. To its right stood a slightly smaller dragon with scales like polished copper, and to its left, a blue-black dragon whose hide seemed to absorb rather than reflect the light. All 3 fixed their burning eyes on Tyler the moment he stepped from the ruins. "Dragonborn," the green one rumbled, its voice so deep that Tyler felt it in his bones. "At last we meet." Tyler swallowed hard, fighting the instinct to run. "You've been looking for me," he said, forcing his voice to remain steady. "For many years," the dragon confirmed. "Since we first sensed your birth on this world. A miracle, after so long without dragonborn among the humans." "Why?" Tyler asked, taking a step forward. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Kazan and Naira slipping away, circling wide to get behind the dragons. Why do you care about one half-dragon boy? The green dragon's massive head lowered until its eye was level with Tyler. That eye was larger than his head, a swirling pool of gold and fire. Because you are the key, young one, it said. The key to the return of dragons to this world. So you can invade? Tyler challenged. Enslave humans again? Burn cities? The dragon made a sound like boulders grinding together. A laugh. Is that what your protectors told you? That we come as conquerors? It glanced contemptuously at the retreating forms of Kazan and Naira. The half-breeds have filled your head with lies. Then tell me the truth, Tyler said, deliberately drawing the dragon's attention back to himself. Why do you need me? The barriers between worlds are maintained by balance, the dragon explained. For a dragon to stay in this world, a dragonborn must exist. For many years, no dragonborn have been born here, and so no dragons could remain. But you. Its nostrils flared, sending twin jets of steam into the cold air. You are pure, strong. Your existence allows us passage. To do what? Tyler pressed, taking another step closer. He could feel the heat radiating from the massive creature, hotter than any furnace. To reclaim what was once ours, the dragon said. This world was shared between dragons and humans once, before the war, before the division. It can be so again. Shared, Tyler said skeptically. Kazan told me dragons ruled over humans, treated them like slaves. The copper dragon hissed, smoke curling from its nostrils. Kazan of the Broken Wings speaks with a forked tongue. He and his kind are traitors to dragon blood, who sided with humans during the Great War. And you want me to side with you instead? Tyler guessed. To help you open a permanent gate between worlds? You would be honored among dragons, the green one said. Elevated to a prince of two realms. Your human family would be protected, privileged above all others. Tyler nearly laughed. They were offering him power, status, protection for his family. All the things they thought would tempt a boy who had just discovered he was half-dragon. And maybe, a few hours ago, it might have worked. But they'd made one critical mistake. They'd threatened his home, his town, the people he cared about. And what about everyone else? He asked. All the other humans? What happens to them if dragons return? The dragon's massive eye blinked slowly. They will serve or perish, as is the natural order. And there it was, the truth beneath the pretty promises. Tyler felt his inner fire flare with anger. Behind the dragons, he could see Kazan and Naira had reached what looked like a tear in the air itself, a jagged line of shimmering energy hanging above the snow. The rift between worlds. He needed to keep the dragons talking just a little longer. If I help you, he said, letting a note of interest enter his voice. How would it work? What would I need to do? The green dragon seemed pleased by his apparent interest. The ritual is simple. You would place your hand in the rift, allowing your dual nature to bridge the worlds. The energy would flow through you, expanding the rift into a permanent gate. Would it hurt? Tyler asked, feigning concern. Only briefly, the dragon assured him. And then you would know power beyond your imagining. Out of the corner of his eye, Tyler saw Kazan and Naira had reached the rift. They stood on either side of it, hands raised, energy beginning to gather around their fingertips. It was time. I've made my decision, Tyler announced, drawing himself up to his full height, still laughably small compared to the dragons, but he felt taller somehow, stronger. You are wise beyond your years, Dragonborn, the green dragon said, satisfaction rumbling in its voice. I am, Tyler agreed, which is why my answer is no. The dragon's eye widened in surprise, then narrowed dangerously. You refuse the honor we offer? I refuse to help you enslave or kill innocent people, Tyler said firmly. This is my world, my home, and I won't let you destroy it. With that, he thrust his hands forward, channeling all his newfound power into a stream of golden fire that shot directly into the dragon's massive eye. The creature reared back with a roar of pain and fury that shook the trees. The other two dragons lunged forward, but Tyler was ready. He called upon the speed Naira had taught him, darting between them, flames trailing from his hands like comet tails. Now, he shouted to Kazan and Naira. They needed no further prompting. Energy surged from their hands into the rift, not expanding it but contracting it, forcing its edges together. The tear in reality began to shrink, its light pulsing erratically. The dragons realized what was happening and turned their attention from Tyler to the rift. The copper one launched itself toward Kazan, jaws opening to release a torrent of flame. Tyler reacted instinctively. He threw himself in front of Kazan, hands raised. When the dragon fire hit him, instead of burning him, it seemed to flow into him, absorbed by his own inner fire. The sensation was incredible, like drinking sunlight, like swallowing stars. Without thinking, he redirected the energy, sending it back at the copper dragon with even greater force. The creature was knocked backward, tumbling in the snow. "The rift is closing," Naira shouted over the dragon's roars. "They'll be pulled back when it collapses." Indeed, the tier was now barely the size of a doorway and shrinking rapidly. A powerful wind had begun to blow toward it, like a vacuum sucking in the surrounding air. The blue-black dragon, seemingly the smartest of the three, recognized the danger. It lunged for Tyler, talons extended. "If we go back, you go with us, Dragonborn." Tyler tried to dodge, but the dragon was too fast. Razor-sharp claws caught his shoulder, tearing through his shirt and skin. Pain lanced through him, but with it came a surge of that inner fire, rushing to the wound. To his amazement, golden flames danced across the injury, sealing it instantly. "Tyler!" Mrs. Harrington shouted from the edge of the clearing. "Look out!" The green dragon had recovered from its temporary blindness and was bearing down on him, its massive jaws agape. Tyler didn't have time to run. Instead, he planted his feet firmly in the snow and gathered every ounce of fire within him. As the dragon lunged, Tyler released his power in a concentrated blast, directly into the creature's open mouth. The fireball exploded down the dragon's throat, causing it to rear back, smoke pouring from its nostrils and between its teeth. The wind toward the rift had become a gale now, strong enough that the snow was being pulled toward it in spiraling clouds. The copper dragon, closest to the collapsing tier, lost its footing and was dragged backward, its wings flapping desperately as it tried to resist the pull. With a final roar of defiance, it was sucked into the rift, disappearing from view. The blue-black dragon, seeing its companion vanish, made a desperate decision. It launched itself skyward, powerful wings beating against the pull of the rift. For a moment, it seemed it might escape, soaring higher above the trees. Then Naira raised her hands, blue fire streaming from her fingertips to form a net of energy above the clearing. The dragon slammed into the barrier and rebounded, tumbling through the air before being caught by the rift's inexorable pull. It, too, vanished into the tear between worlds. Only the green dragon remained, and it was fighting the pull with everything it had, talons dug deep into the frozen earth, wings pressed tight against its body to reduce drag. "You cannot win, Dragonborn," it roared at Tyler. "More will come. This world will be ours again." "Not today," Tyler replied. "And not through me." He strode forward, gathering his power for one final attack. The dragon's eyes widened as it sensed what was coming. "Wait," it cried. "You are one of us. You belong with dragons." Tyler shook his head. "I'm human too, and I choose humanity." With that, he released a wave of fire more powerful than anything he'd produced before, a golden tsunami that washed over the dragon and severed its grip on the earth. The creature gave one last defiant roar as it was pulled backward into the rift, its massive body contorting as it was forced through the rapidly shrinking tier. And then it was gone. The rift collapsed in on itself with a sound like thunder, leaving nothing but a faint shimmer in the air that quickly faded. For a moment, the clearing was utterly silent. The snow settled. The wind died. Even the birds in the surrounding forest seemed to hold their breath. Then Tyler's knees buckled, and he sank into the snow, suddenly exhausted. Using so much power had drained him completely. He felt hollowed out, empty. Hands caught him before he could fall face first into the snow. Mrs. Harrington, her face lined with concern but also fierce pride. "You did it," she said softly. "You saved us all." Kazan and Naira approached, looking equally drained but triumphant. "The rift is sealed," Kazan confirmed. "Completely. It will take them years to find another weak point between the worlds, if they ever do. And by then, you'll be fully trained," Naira added, smiling at Tyler. "A proper dragonborn, ready to defend this world if needed." Tyler looked up at them wearily. "What happens now? I can't exactly go back to school like nothing happened. I breathed fire in class. Everyone saw. Memory alteration is within our capabilities," Kazan said. "Your classmates, your teachers, they'll forget what they saw. Think it was a strange electrical fire, perhaps." "And my parents?" Tyler asked. "Do they have to forget too?" Kazan and Naira exchanged looks. "That," Naira said gently, "is up to you. They could forget today ever happened. Or they could know the truth," Mrs. Harrington finished. "About what you are. About what you did today." Tyler considered this. His parents, his adoptive parents, but his real parents in every way that mattered, had always been honest with him, had always supported him, loved him unconditionally. Could he ask them to forget something so fundamental about their son? They should know, he decided. They deserve the truth. And he hesitated, then pressed on. "And I'm going to need their help. If I'm going to learn to control this, to be both human and dragon, I need them." Kazan nodded approvingly. "A wise choice. Family is strength, regardless of blood." "Speaking of control," Naira said, "you'll need training. The crystal accelerated your awakening, but you've only scratched the surface of what you can do. Kazan and I can teach you, if you're willing." "Like dragon mentors?" Tyler asked, managing a tired smile. "Coming over after school for fire-breathing lessons?" "Something like that," Naira laughed. "Though perhaps with more discretion. The world isn't ready to know about dragons just yet." Tyler looked around at the snow-covered clearing, at the ruins of the cabin, at the place where the rift had been. Just hours ago, he'd been a normal sixth grader, worried about normal things. Now he was half-dragon, with powers he barely understood and responsibilities he hadn't asked for. But he wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Whatever came next, whatever challenges being a dragonborn in a human world would bring, he would face them. He would learn, grow, become stronger. And if the dragons ever returned, they would find not a confused boy, but a defender ready to stand against them. "Let's go home," he said, rising to his feet. "I have a lot to tell my parents." The drive back to town was quiet, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Tyler watched the familiar landmarks pass by, the old mill, the corner store, the park where he'd played since he was little. It all looked exactly the same, and yet everything had changed. When they pulled up in front of his house, Tyler was surprised to see both his parents' cars in the driveway. They must have been called when he disappeared from school. They were probably worried sick. "Would you like us to come in with you?" Mrs. Harrington asked gently. "Help explain." Tyler shook his head. "No, this is something I need to do myself." He looked at Kazan and Naira in the back seat. "But thank you, all of you, for saving me, for teaching me." "You saved yourself," Kazan corrected. "And this town. Never forget that." "We'll be in touch soon," Naira promised. "To begin your training. But take a few days to rest, to adjust. This has been quite a day for you." Tyler nodded and got out of the car. As he walked up the path to his front door, he heard the window roll down behind him. "Tyler," Mrs. Harrington called. He turned back. "I'm proud of you," she said simply. He smiled, a real smile despite his exhaustion. "Thanks, Mrs. H. See you in science class." She laughed. "I expect your next report on the periodic table to be significantly more exciting." The front door flew open before he reached it. His mom stood there, her face pale with worry, her eyes red from crying. Behind her, his dad looked equally stricken. "Tyler," his mom cried, rushing forward to enfold him in a hug so tight it would have hurt if he were still fully human. "Where have you been?" "The school called, said there was a fire, that you were missing." "I'm okay, Mom," he assured her, hugging her back, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume and the fabric softener she always used. "I'm okay. But But there's something I need to tell you. Both of you. His dad joined the hug, one strong arm around Tyler's shoulders. Whatever it is, son, we're here. Tyler took a deep breath. He felt the fire inside him, no longer alien or frightening, but simply a part of who he was, who he had always been, even if he hadn't known it. Let's go inside, he said. It's kind of a long story. It started today in science class, when I sneezed. His parents listened with wide eyes as he told them everything. The fiery sneeze, the dragons, the revelation about his birth, the battle, the choice he'd made to stand with humanity. He showed them his hands, calling forth a small flame that danced across his palm without burning him. When he finished, there was a long silence. Tyler waited, his heart pounding. Would they be afraid? Would they look at him differently now? Would they even believe him? His dad was the first to speak. So, my son is half dragon. He ran a hand through his hair, looking shell-shocked but not afraid. That's something. His mom reached out and took Tyler's hand, the one that had been holding fire moments before. You must have been so scared, she said softly. I was, Tyler admitted. But then I realized, this doesn't change who I am. It just explains some things. Like why I always ate twice as much as other kids. He grinned weakly. Dragon metabolism, apparently. To his relief, both his parents laughed. Dragon or human or something in between, his dad said firmly, you're our son. That's what matters. And we'll help you figure this out, his mom added. These, mentors of yours, Kazan and Naira. We'll want to meet them, of course. Talk about this training they're planning. Tyler felt something tight in his chest loosen. They believed him. They weren't afraid. They still saw him as their son. So, his dad said, clapping his hands together with forced cheerfulness. I guess this explains why you keep setting your sheets on fire when you have a fever. Tyler's jaw dropped. That happened before. His parents exchanged looks. 3 times, his mom confirmed. We thought it was some kind of strange static electricity thing. The doctor had no explanation. You never told me. We didn't want you to worry, his dad shrugged. Kids set things on fire sometimes. It's normal. Not like that. It isn't, Tyler laughed, feeling a wave of affection for his wonderfully weird, accepting parents. Well, normal is overrated anyway, his mom declared, pulling him into another hug. My son, the Dragonborn. Wait till your grandmother hears about this. Mom, Tyler protested. We can't tell Grandma. This is supposed to be a secret. Please, his mom scoffed. Who do you think taught me how to keep secrets? That woman worked for the government for 40 years. She knows how to be discreet. She paused thoughtfully. Besides, she always said there was something special about you. Called you her little fire starter when you were a baby. Tyler stared at her. Did Grandma know? About what I am? His mom shrugged. Your grandmother knows a lot of things. More than she lets on. You can ask her at dinner on Sunday. Tyler shook his head, laughing despite himself. This day had been full of revelations, but somehow the idea that his grandmother might have known he was half-dragon all along was the most surprising. I'm starving, he announced suddenly, his stomach growling loudly enough to prove the point. Dragon stuff really takes it out of you. Well, we can't have our Dragonborn going hungry, his dad said, heading for the kitchen. How about pizza? I'll order extra. With jalapenos? Tyler asked hopefully. And hot sauce. His dad looked back at him, one eyebrow raised. Let me guess, dragons like spicy food? Tyler grinned. Apparently. As his parents bustled about, calling the pizza place, setting the table, acting as if this were just another family dinner and not the day their son had discovered he was half-mythical creature, Tyler felt a profound sense of gratitude. His life had changed forever today, but the most important things, his family, his home, the people who loved him, those remained constant. He glanced out the window at the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, beyond the veil between worlds, the dragons were licking their wounds, planning their next move. And when they came again, if they came again, they would find Earth protected by a Dragonborn who had chosen humanity. A Dragonborn who had sneezed fire at school and found his true self in the flames. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments. whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.